Good morning. It is early Sunday morning, September 25th, and I believe I'm going to begin a truth-rising effort to share some of the important things that may not have come across your attention. So I'm going to begin with this. My tech skills may be low, but this is about information. This is a video from Poland. Please watch.
I wanted to record this video because I've heard about this 2 days ago, and actually since I'm traveling, I really didn't have much time to prepare this translation for you about something that is very important that is taking place in Poland. And I heard about this from two channels, my two favorite channels, as you know. Maciej Maciak's channel, YouTube channel, and Suwerenny is the other one. You can find the links down below this video. Click on more, scroll down. What it is about is actually quite important, guys. I will say in Polish first, and then I will translate just the type of document, okay? What is being prepared, or actually has been prepared already, hasn't been fully approved yet, but it's rządowy projekt ustawy o ochronie ludności oraz stanie klęski żywiołowej Rzeczpospolitej Polskiej, which is a government bill on protection of the population and the state of natural disaster of the Republic of Poland. On September 5th, this month, Morawiecki, Polish Prime Minister, brought this for consideration to the government's legislative center. And what it is, I have many notes here, so just bear with me today because those are very important points. And we have to talk about this because you want to be updated what's going on. And this is what might happen in Poland very soon. It's actually a governmental draft legislation that will be introduced in Poland. And there are a few key points that I would like to read to you, of course, in English, what it is about. The major ones will be also at the end of this video. And yeah, let's get through this. Number one is an employer's order to delegate employees to the body managing the activities carried out in order to remove or to prevent the effect of natural disaster. Number two, an order to engage in an activity of a certain type, like weapons production, for example. It's not stated there, but it's just my comment. Number three, total or partial regulation of the supply of certain types of articles, as far as food or other type of articles. Number four, it is forbidden to periodically increase the prices of goods or certain type of services. So we're killing the small businesses here, everyone. The next step. Number five, an obligation to apply fixed prices for goods or services that are essential to the cost of living for the customers. Number seven, from the category WTF. Are you ready? This is very, very serious stuff. Obligation to undergo a medical examination, obligation of treatments, and the use of other preventive measures and treatments to combat infectious diseases and the effects of chemical and radioactive contamination. Number eight, obligation to submit to quarantine. Number nine, maybe it's not in order, but this is my number 9 here. The obligation to use plant protection measures or other preventive measures necessary to combat organisms harmful to humans, animals, or plants. Next, obligation to use measures or treatments necessary to combat infectious animal diseases. Another one, and this is my number 12 actually, from the category of WTF. Obligation to empty or secure residential premises or other rooms. So when they tell you to leave your place, you gotta leave your place. Number 13, we continue with WTF. Obligation to perform compulsory demolition or demolition of buildings or other building structures or their parts. This is not fake, this is actually a document that's created. That's why I'm recording this video. Next, order to evacuate at specified time from specific places and facilities. Order to evacuate at the specified time from specific places and facilities. And then the next, order or prohibition to stay in specific places and facilities and specific areas. Next, ban on organizing or carrying out mass events. Next, order or prohibition of a specific mode of movement. So they will tell you how you move, where you move, if you can move. Yeah, this should be WTF category as well, right? Next, an order for employers to post workers at the disposal of the body managing the activities in order to prevent the effects of natural disaster. And the last one, these are not all the points, but those are the ones that Maciek was talking about, and those are probably always important, but those are probably the most important. It's Article 42 from the same document, and it says, this is quoting everyone, okay? This is not like paraphrasing, this is quoting, translated for you by me as best as I could. Restrictions on the freedom and rights of humans and citizens in a state of natural disaster applying to natural persons and respectively to legal persons and organizational units without legal personality having their register office and conducting activities in the area in which the state of natural disaster has been introduced. The beginning. Restrictions on the freedom and rights of a human and a citizen in a state of natural disaster. So this is what has been presented by Polish Prime Minister to the government's legislative center. No one is talking about it except those two channels I've heard of. Yes, I wanted to record this video to give you an idea that there is such a document that is going through the process of legislation, and once it's approved, those are the steps that are in this plan. On that note, I will end here. You're very welcome to leave your comments down below. I will attach both channels that I received this information from down below the video, like I said. I'm actually getting ready for the meetup now. So thank you for watching. Yeah, couldn't be more obvious, right? Make sure to give the like. I appreciate for the little effort I put in this while traveling in UK. Lots of love, everyone, and I will be back with another conversation with another guest very soon, and keeping you posted.
Okay, I'm going to share what she has down below so you can see. Let's see. So I don't know if you can see that, but if you need to, you can certainly stop the tape and look at these links down here. Okay, so that is the first. Stop share and pause. Okay, we're going to go directly into some humor from Robert Malone's Substack, Dr. Robert Malone's Substack, so I recommend this. These are the funnies that he sends out every Sunday. So I'll leave that on for a minute. Okay. Next one. It's funny. We've got so many spiders here. We like them. Can you make this one? And this is amusing. Okay. This one I think is especially good. Okay. Maybe you can just see it like that. See if this gets bigger. That's long enough for you to read it. And then here's a very funny King Tut. But I'm not going to play it. Robert Malone is one of the men responsible for, I think he is the man responsible for the mRNA invention. Okay, I'm going to share a part of the Highwire show this week, September 25th, and in hopes that you'll watch the rest. This is a part with some lawyers who are bringing a suit about the use of remdesivir. Let me see if I can get to it. Here we go. Let me see. So I'm going to play it.
Yeah, this was Tony Fauci's golden pony. You know, this is the one he thought was going to be really just the amazing come from behind slam dunk. Remdesivir falls flat in WHO mega study in COVID-19 treatment. So more than 3/4 of this study was providing evidence of remdesivir. And this was over 11,000 people worldwide, 400 hospitals. And let's look at the study itself. The study basically concluded in its discussion that remdesivir regimens appeared to have little or no effect on hospitalized COVID-19, as indicated by overall mortality, intubation of ventilation, and duration of hospital stay. So they looked at it basically over 2,700 people in hospitals receiving this. 11% died, 11.2% did not, and that was the placebo arm. So they said that 0.2 was probably related to chance. So there you have it with remdesivir.
Wow. That was October of 2020 that we gave that report that the WHO had said this thing doesn't work at all. And so where are we at now? 2 years later, how many of you have relatives that lost their lives and felt powerless, weren't even allowed in the hospital as they were running these draconian measures on you and locking you out of the hospital, putting your loved one on a ventilator, which we found out later doesn't work, and then remdesivir, which could shut down their kidneys or cause heart problems? How many stories? We're going to be telling some of those in the future here on the Highwire. But they are stories that never had to happen. Well, Finally, there is a group of attorneys that are doing something about it and saying, no, we're not going to let this slide. We're not going to worry about whether or not we have the right to sue or liability protection or prep this or prop that. Instead, they're going to do something about it. Check out these headlines. Uniform consent. 3 California hospitals face lawsuits for use of the remdesivir protocol. Attorneys allege led to wrongful death. It goes on to say, Watkins said they filed the lawsuits on behalf of 14 Fresno area families who allege the hospital engaged in medical deception and failed to provide informed consent relating to potential side effects such as kidney failure. It's my honor and pleasure to be joined right now by Daniel Watkins and Michael Hamilton. Daniel, Michael.
Great to be here.
It's an honor to have you here. And, we are fairly litigious here at the Informed Consent Action Network, which is the nonprofit that makes this show happen. But there's just not enough attorneys in the world. And so every once in a while, when a couple of guys like yourself step up, I couldn't be more excited. And this is such an important issue. So tell me to begin with, how did you get into this discussion on remdesivir and its use in hospitals?
It came from the families themselves initially. A couple people in the Fresno area experienced the type of care that you've outlined here, and they felt that it was really off. And through God, I think, bringing some other folks together, they all started to talk and discover this treatment was not right. We were separated from our loved ones. We weren't allowed to be with our loved ones. And then in many cases, we said no remdesivir. They gave it anyway. And so the family started to talk, and they started looking for attorneys and reaching out. And a couple really spirited individuals kept looking, and they found Michael and myself. Michael and I don't work together on a regular basis. In fact, this is how we first met in this case.
Okay.
But God brought us together. We both were in, and we decided we got to fight. I mean, what you're talking about in terms of providing care that has been objected to. I mean, it's beyond anything I've ever seen in my practice. And we needed to step in to fight.
Yeah, we have several stories just like that. Michael, in the face of real liability protections that have been put out there, when we look at the PrEP Act, when I read that, it seems like it almost gives doctors the right to shoot you in the head and say, you know what, that was just the best treatment we could figure out at the time. What is the case? How are you gonna deal with sort of that liability protection? Essentially said, in the face of an emergency, doctors are allowed to use whatever treatment they find necessary as we're trying to grapple and find a way through this. So, even though they came out against drugs that did appear to be working, in this case, how are you going to deal with that as from a legal perspective?
So these folks have done their best, Del, to convince everyone that they're immune because of the PrEP Act. But they're not immune from intentional misconduct. They're not.
Okay.
And what we see are they're not giving people informed consent. They're not telling them what they need to know. They're not telling them the dangers of remdesivir. They're not telling them about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, effective remedies. That ivermectin won the Nobel Peace Prize for medicine.
Yeah.
It's effective. It's good. But they're not telling them about that. They're not giving them the informed consent that's required for an emergency use authorization. And they don't get immunity for intentional wrongdoing.
And that's what we've alleged in the complaint. A couple of the causes of action in particular, when they did something intentionally to fraudulently conceal information from the patient, they did it intentionally. It wasn't a mistake. It's not medical malpractice. When they provided care administering remdesivir over objections of the patient, that's not a mistake.
Right.
That's intentional. PrEP Act, we're going to argue, doesn't cover that. And it is a limited liability. It's not complete from every single piece of that conduct that goes down. So, and really, there's another part of the lawsuit that I think is really important. We want to win, of course. We want to win against the facilities that the treatment took these lives. These good people died, really good people.
Yeah.
But the families are really more about bringing awareness to this issue, to the community. And that's why your show and bringing us on is so important. So people can know when they go in, say no to remdesivir. Demand that it's not going to happen. And demand the efficacious treatments of ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. So if the PrEP Act is somehow interpreted by a court, and then the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal after that, to beat us,
keep taking it.
So be it. Oh yeah, we're all the way.
All the way.
We're going to push this policy because it cannot be interpreted to allow doctors and hospitals to intentionally deprive people of the care that they are entitled to.
So tell me then go ahead, because you have so many clients involved in this. Is there a commonality to the story, and what does that sound like?
There's a tremendous commonality. I was aware, even before I connected with Dan Watkins and we brought these cases in Fresno, I was seeing this in multiple states, multiple hospitals. The protocol is I'm going to describe a protocol, and it varies almost not at all.
Okay.
Someone comes into the hospital. Maybe they have a twisted ankle. Maybe they have a cough. Whatever they have, they're told, well, you have COVID pneumonia. We're going to put you in a room. We're going to isolate you from your family. No family allowed. And they separate them. Then they put an oxygen machine on their face, and they start pumping oxygen in at very high levels.
Yep.
People are having a difficult time breathing. They try to take the mask off. Oftentimes their hands are zip tied to the bed rails.
No way.
And then their phone is put across the room. They can't call anybody. They can't ask for help. Oftentimes, the button for calling for a nurse is removed. They're in this room. They're isolated from their family. They're zip tied down. The oxygen is being shoved into them. And then sometimes a psychiatrist will come in and say, well, you look agitated. Let's get you on a morphine drip. And then they can't fight the effects of the remdesivir, which is doing something to their kidneys. Their lungs are filling up with fluid. They're not given food or water of any kind, not through an IV, of no kind. Average time to death is about 9 days. And they are, and the doctors are giving word tracks to the families. They're saying, you don't have medical training.
Right.
And they're bullying them, and they're saying, look, if you don't do this, if you leave against medical advice, your insurance is not going to cover it, and you're going to go bankrupt.
Wow.
And
so
they're
basically blackmailing,
bullying them. Yes,
Bullying.
Absolutely. It's torture. They're starving to death. Their hands are tied to the bed rails, and the remdesivir is being pumped into them. But not just remdesivir. They're getting all kinds of drugs. I mean, we have clients, and I know of folks who have received 30, 40 plus drugs, many of them contraindicated for use with remdesivir.
Unbelievable.
And it's really an unbelievable situation. They're coming in every couple of hours to test them, and they can't get proper sleep. They're sleep deprived. They're deprived of their families, and
It's a
And
disaster.
they just
Let's take a look at the stories that we're working on here at the Highwire.
November of 2021, my husband Kyle started getting sick. His COVID test did come back positive. I took him to the urgent care and they checked him in.
As we were driving to the hospital, I told him, I'm very worried about you. And he said, well, I know not to go on COVID protocols. I know not to take Remdesivir. I know not to do a ventilator.
They started right from within the first 24 hours talking about him receiving Remdesivir. They said that that was part of their protocol that they used to treat COVID patients, and that he should consider that.
The very next day that he was in the hospital, he woke up with the IV in his arm, and I knew that kidneys shutting down from being given Remdesivir is pretty common. Called the hospital, and I got a different nurse on the phone, and said, oh yes, he was given Remdesivir as soon as he came in. Roughly 9 days later, his kidneys were at 6% function. He was vented full-time dialysis.
His kidney lab started to go bad, and so the doctor started him on dialysis the next day.
And the doctor told me that Ryan was a full code, so he said that he would do CPR if I wanted to, but he told me that it would only prolong Ryan's death and not prolong his life, that Ryan was really gone.
She pulled the emergency cord and code blue, and everybody ran in. She jumped on his chest and started doing CPR. He fought so hard. He's been through so much. When we told them to stop, they shut the machines off, and everybody was gone. And Kyle was gone immediately. The guidelines that have been put in place by Dr. Anthony Fauci, I feel they definitely have part of his blood on their hands. And they really should consider what they did to me.
Okay. So that is on thehighwire.com, and it's this week's episode. There's also an interview with a Dr. Marek, who has proven how to stop sepsis, which is a leading cause of death with the vitamin C and thiamine protocol. So I'm hoping that getting an idea of what's over there will lead you over there, plus any awareness that I can help bring. So I'm going to stop the recording for now.